Many people associate the crypto scene with startups because of how new the industry is. But what does it actually take for a startup to secure the first round of cash flows? What are big investors actually looking out for? And how do you become a startup worth investing in? Let's find out more from Vance, the startup ecosystem lead at Huawei Cloud. Hi Vance, welcome to another episode of Coinlive Talk. Now before we begin the interview, maybe you could just explain and give a brief introduction on yourself and your role at Huawei.
My name is Llewellan Vance and I am the startup ecosystem lead for a program called Spark. Spark is a program that has been set up within Huawei to work with startups, tech-based startups specifically, and to find a way to help collaborate and turn them from startup to scale up. One of the reasons I wanted to be part of this brand is that we get to be exposed to all of the latest and greatest tech-based startups from across the world. They tend to all be really innovative and quite interesting. Unfortunately, we have to be very focused on who we work with from a startup perspective. And it's everything from artificial intelligence and all of the innovation that's happening in that space, Web3, cybersecurity, the Internet of Things, sustainability solutions. So it varies across a few very specific disciplines. We initiate projects with these startups to collaborate with bigger enterprise customers and help them innovate within their own business. There's two parts to the Spark program. The one is the incubator side, which is where we're based today, and that's where we have a 6-month cohort where we intimately work with these startups, give them a dedicated working space and world-class facilities in which to help them do what they need to do. On the accelerator side, we have a much bigger cohort which is open to a few hundred startups. We really focused on quality, not quantity. We're a small team. Our goal is to make sure that we are helping startups not only receive financial benefits in the form of cloud credits or VC support, but to actually help them develop tangible projects with enterprise customers. The team that we have is quite experienced, and we bring in best of breed subject matter experts to work with the startups to remove their learning curves.
Could you describe some challenges that new Web3 or metaverse startups face, particularly within the context of Singapore?
Within the context of Singapore, it's actually a benefit to be here versus a challenge. I think that the Singapore ecosystem for startups is very inviting, and there's a lot of options on how to position yourself with the support of both the government as well as the private sector. The general challenge, I think, for any Web3 startup is probably centered more around the lack of understanding that people have around Web3. There's also probably a bit of negative perceptions as we fumble our way through a lot of the Web3 horror stories that are presenting themselves in the market, with your more layman person losing confidence or trust in the concept of Web3. It's an exciting space for startups. I see a lot of innovation. I don't think the challenge is around innovation or the ability to get funding or support. It's probably more on the adoption side and making sure that they are able to get their product to market with the layman. I think the challenge that VCs face is how do you quantify future value? It's a space that we don't understand. It's a space that is developing relatively quickly. Which horse do you back? A lot of VCs are being taken to task and questioned around the nature of the due diligence that they perform on a startup. The days of just throwing money at a Web3 AR branded startup are over. I'm hearing from a lot of the startups that we engage with that the process is a lot more stringent from VCs. And there's been a bit of a wake-up call by VCs who have been burnt with 3AC, Celsius, FTX, where money has just been thrown at some of these brands with little to no due diligence. FTX has dealt a bit of a death blow to a lot of Web3 companies, but I don't believe in the medium to long term it's going to stifle the innovation that will be unfolding in the space, because there's just way too many use cases and a lot of innovative people that are seeing the gaps materialize between Web3 and the world as we know it. So I think naturally you will see innovation continue to thrive.